In our money lead today, the United States and other nations are taking unprecedented steps to try to cut off Vladimir Putin's financial power as punishment for his unprovoked deadly attack on the sovereign nation of Ukraine. Today, the Biden administration blocked Russia's central bank from U.S. transactions. On Saturday, the U.S. joined a global coalition to try to shut down Russia's access to SWIFT, which is an international bank messaging system. CNN's Caitlin Collins is at the White House tracking this all for us, where other crippling measures are under discussion.
Amid explosions in Kyiv and talks on the border with Belarus, the West is working overtime to isolate Russian President Vladimir Putin even further today.
The eyes of the world are on Ukraine and the brave people who are fighting to protect their country and their democracy.
The Treasury Department announcing it's sanctioning Russia's central bank, effectively cutting the Kremlin off from its financial reserves and going after one of Putin's biggest weaknesses, his currency.
These financial sanctions at the level of almost financial war.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen says the aggressive new actions will, quote, significantly limit Russia's ability to use assets to finance its destabilizing activities. As the ruble plunged and the Moscow Stock Exchange remained closed, Putin huddled with his economic advisors. Meantime, President Biden spending over an hour on the phone with European allies amid a remarkably united response to Russia's unprovoked invasion. That call happening hours after Biden chose to largely ignore Putin's decision to place Russian nuclear forces into, quote, special combat readiness.
We've seen Mr. Putin's announcement. We believe it's as unnecessary as it is escalatory. Secretary Austin is comfortable with the strategic deterrent posture of the United States.
As more nations ban Russian flights from their airspace, the U.S. is making clear that there is little appetite to create a no-fly zone over Ukraine, arguing it could be tantamount to a declaration of war.
The president has made clear that we're not going to put boots on the ground. We're not going to put American troops in danger. So that means we're not going to put American troops in the air as well. But we will work with the Ukrainians to give them the ability to defend themselves.
A new CNN poll finding that 83% of Americans favor more economic sanctions against Russia, though only 42% are in favor of direct military action should the sanctions fail to work. All this coming as Biden is preparing to address the nation tonight. State of the address.
President Obama gave a speech, the worst in a lifetime. President Bush gave a speech shortly after the worst terrorist attack on our homeland ever. It's always about expressing how you're going to lead the country.
And Jake, I should note that earlier when President Biden was asked if Americans should be worried about the prospect of a nuclear war, he flatly said no. That comes as the White House has said they see no reason to change their own nuclear threat levels after Putin said he was going to raise his, accusing him of once again just trying to manufacture a reason for another aggressive action on his part.
Caitlin, stay with me. I want to bring in CNN's business editor at large, Richard Quast, who's in Saudi Arabia right now. And Richard, in just the last 48 hours, the U.S. cut off Russia's central bank and disconnected select Russian banks from the international bank messaging system called SWIFT. For the average person, what is the real-life impact of these moves?
There's going to be pain on both sides, Jake. Both sides are going to hurt, but the Russians are going to hurt a great deal more. Essentially, all these financial measures send the Russian economy into reverse just about immediately. Supply chains already just in time will dry up completely. They won't be able to get technology. They can't transfer money. The banks will grind to a halt. Now, they can still print money and put it in ATMs, but they're printing rubles and putting them into ATMs, and that's just inflationary. So on the other side, of course, Jake, we are also suffering from inflation, but the effects that we will bear will be nothing compared to the Russian economy as these sanctions bite. The economy is being throttled. It'll take a bit of time, but it'll work.
Caitlin, here in the U.S., a brand new CNN poll shows that Americans overwhelmingly support economic sanctions against Russia, 83% favor versus 17% opposed. But I wonder if the White House thinks those numbers are going to hold when American citizens start feeling more pain in their wallets and purses and the Russians retaliate in their own ways.
Yeah, I think it's certainly been a concern of theirs because you've seen over the last few days as the matters and the positions on certain sanctions has shifted as they are now going after SWIFT, as they are now going after the Russian central bank. One big question has been when it comes to energy sanctions, which obviously would hurt the Russians, but the White House understands that that would be collateral damage because it wouldn't just be a one-way street when it comes to the punishment for those sanctions. And so that's something they have not gone after in the way that some people have said that they should, but others have argued it wouldn't make sense for them to do. And it's also something that they are being very careful to do in tandem with European allies, saying that Europe is very sensitive and concerned about any price spikes, any further price spikes when it comes to energy prices. And so that is something that they are being aware of. And definitely here at home, you've heard the president try to make this issue more relatable to Americans by saying, it's not just the concern about the world order here and democracy, but also when it comes to energy prices here in the United States, which are already high, and the president is saying that they are trying to work to mitigate any spikes in those here at home, as they are also still trying to hold Putin accountable. And so one thing, though, on the support for sanctions that you were seeing in this new poll, you see that it was at about 82%. Back in 2014, when Russia invaded Crimea illegally and annexed it, the support for economic sanctions was only about 67%. So you're already seeing how much higher that is now. Of course, we should note a majority of Americans do not support direct military action if these sanctions ultimately fail to stop Putin. Only about 42% do so far, Jake, based on this poll.
Richard?
I think when you look at the situation, both sides are economically fragile, but one side is a great deal worse than the other. I'm here in Saudi Arabia at the moment. Let's just look at the Saudis. Allies of the United States, close allies, but at the same time, major OPEC plus relationship with Russia. And that's why Saudi is finding itself in a very difficult position, Jake. On the one hand, it has to be seen, as the Crown Prince has said, to support the Allied maneuvers, but at the same time, it does not want to annoy Russia or OPEC, and how you balance that relationship is almost impossible for countries like Saudi. At some point, Saudi, the UAE, all the oil producers are going to have to come off the fence one way or the other between Russia and the United States, its allies and its partners.
Kaylin, the American people are going to be tuning in for Biden's State of the Union address tomorrow night.